I want to move to a larger topic, sort of a multiple topic, but it's really one big topic, which is the economy, Rodney. And I saw this graphic earlier in the week, and you may have seen this as well. But there is a looming eviction problem, Rodney. The federal moratorium, the eviction ban, it will expire at the end of the year, and it was shocking, at least to me, the number of people at risk. This is deadly serious. I don't know if you saw this graphic, Rodney. This is a map. 17 million Americans are not current on the rent or mortgage payment, and nearly 33% face foreclosure or eviction in the next 2 months. And this shows it by state. Your home state, your state, Rodney, 42%. 42.5% people are at risk. There's a couple that are even higher. New Mexico at 52%, Louisiana at 56%. Now, not all of these people are going to get evicted, of course, but it does show you the number of people, the number of Americans, households at least, who are struggling to make their rent and mortgage payments and could potentially be out on the street without some help here. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's a terrible situation, right? The number that I saw was $70 billion owed in back rent. And most rentals are not big corporations. They're mom and pops who own 2 or 3 homes that they rent out, or townhouses, or, a little apartment building or something.
Yeah.
And so those people have their own bills to pay. And so we moved the pain from the renter to the property owner, but we didn't alleviate the pain. And so when we talk about things like this, we're not talking about solving the problem. We're talking about, well, just push it along. Here's the bigger issue that's going to happen. First of all, I think that the new stimulus package is going to keep the moratorium on evictions past December 31. Okay. But there again, they're not supplying any money to pay the people who own the property. They're not fixing.
Right.
And so somewhere down the road, be it in, March or June or something, this is going to end. And all of these people who owe the back rent, so remember, they still owe it, even though they didn't pay it. They're going to just move. And so they're going to have this debt that's going to follow them, because the landlord, he needs his money. The landlord has to pay his, property insurance and the employees that work there and the mortgage and all the other stuff.
Yeah, taxes, certainly, yeah.
He's going to sue and say, look, I need that $7,000 you owe me that you're never going to pay, right? And so then you're going to have these 17 million people with this big black mark on their credit score. And so it's going to follow through the system. We're going to cripple the rental property market a little bit. It's just going to be goofy. And so I think it's been poorly managed because we didn't attack the problem. We attacked the symptom and simply just foisted it onto somebody else.
So are we going to need a special fund, maybe a bailout for landlords, essentially?
I don't know that you need a bailout. I'm not a fan of that, but you have to recognize that by stopping the evictions, you didn't change anything that happened. And you do have, I recognize that there are a lot of people out of work. And so a lot of those people are at risk because they have no money.
Yeah. We didn't want to see them thrown out on the street, right? I mean, we had half of America homeless. So
that's the problem. But we do have unemployment benefits exactly for that. Yeah. The other side of that is there are some people who are just choosing not to pay. And so you live in Tampa area where I lived for years. We know this, Trey. We saw this happen in 2009, 10, 11, and 12, where people lived in their homes without paying their mortgage for years, not because they couldn't, but they were so far underwater. They said, what's the point? I'm just going to live here until I'm kicked out and take the mortgage money and do something else.
Yeah.
And so you don't, because you allowed this situation to become what it is, where you tell people they don't have to pay. A lot of people are saying, so I won't pay. Now, there are restrictions on it. You're only supposed to not pay your rent if you are suffering from the pandemic. But that implies that the landlord is going to check on it and he's going to verify and he's going to take you to court and all those other things, which may happen, but it takes time. So you can still do all these things and not pay and, go along for months or now 7, 8, 9 months, more than half a year without paying your rent or mortgage. Remember, there are 4 million people not paying their mortgage too.
It's crazy. And, even despite this ban, I just this morning, just preparing for having to deal with you, I came across, sorry.
It's okay. I'll take it.
I came across an NBC News story. I'm just joking, of course, everyone. Came across an NBC News story of these evictions are still happening despite the ban. There was a couple of examples in Florida. I mean, I'm sure they're few and far between. It's not massive like this, but people that have been laid off or lost their jobs due to COVID, it's still, some judges don't don't allow it, even though it's clear I lost my job because of the pandemic. So I do feel
Well,
for
some of it is living arrangement, because if you live in a motel, then you're not, it's not rent. I mean, it's short-term lodging. And so if you're living week to week in a motel, then it's a question of whether or not you're a resident. And so those motel owners can kick you out. Some sympathetic judges say, no, 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 you've been there for 3 months. Clearly you're a resident now.
yeah.
But that's a really gray area that people are dealing with.